Ilhan Omar thought this was a smart question. Take a look.
If you know of any employer that has a provision where they decrease pay for employees.
During a Minnesota House hearing, Omar tried to land a weak gotcha. But not only did she come off as out of touch, the chair stepped in and shut her down for ridiculous questions.
In the private sector as well, people, if they are not performing at their job, get demoted, and with that demotion comes a pay cut.
And today, we're covering it all. So if you believe truth isn't partisan, hit the subscribe button. Let's jump right into it.
I'm just wondering, are there... I was a union member for a long time, and I've also gotten an opportunity to work in the private sector. And I'm curious to know if you know of any employer that has a provision where they decrease pay for employees. I find that a little strange, and so I just wanted to know where that thought comes from, and if you know.
Well, I was a business owner. I recently sold my share, so I don't own it anymore. But there are plenty of businesses out there, especially those that depend on employees' productivity. Like I was in the trades. So I owned a company that was a tile setting company. And if we didn't get out there and do the work, and if I didn't have highly productive employees, they were paid based on their productivity. So if they had issues, it is very possible that their pay would reflect those issues. If they were on probation for something, for some sort of violation, that could be coordinated with a pay reduction.
Now, this hearing was back in 2018 when Omar was serving as a Minnesota state representative, but it recently resurfaced online, with many pointing out how out of depth she seemed. Now, for some context, O'Neill introduced a straightforward bill that would tie pay adjustments for any state employee to annual performance. In other words, compensation would be based on how productive they are. If you think about it, that should be the standard practice, especially since we have bloated public sector, whether it's on states or federal levels. Now, to put it in perspective, according to BLS data, we have approximately 20.6 million employees of state and local government as of February 2026, which is around 13% of the nation's entire workforce. If we add the federal employees to that, the number grows even larger. But Ilhan didn't like the answer she got, and her reaction showed it.
Hudson, I think, did you have something?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Hudson? Was there a question for Mr. Hudson?
No, I think he was saying that he wanted to add something, so I didn't know if he had something to add.
Mr. Hudson, is there a response to the question? Do you have a response to that question?
Madam Chair, yes, ma'am.
Saying that you aren't?
I think what Chair O'Neill perhaps could be referring to, there are some instances where the pay structure is different. So for an example, she had indicated that she had come out of the towel industry. I'm not sure if these were commission employees who may have been on like an 80-20 split. In that instance, there is a situation where a pay might be reduced. Or if we have a supervisor who perhaps had a performance improvement issue or a behavioral concern, and we demoted this supervisor, that is an instance where pay might be decreased. But just an employee who has not been under some sort of performance improvement program, having their pay reduced, I've never heard of that.
Edwin Hudson was actually the deputy commissioner at Minnesota's Management and Budget Department, meaning he was directly involved in shaping workforce policy for the state. So for him to say he was not familiar with pay being reduced due to poor performance is a major problem on its own. But I want to talk about Ilhan for a bit, because she opened by saying she was private sector experienced, yet her background before entering politics tells a different story. According to her own website, Omar worked as a, quote, community educator at the University of Minnesota, then a policy fellow at the Humphreys School of Public Affairs, in addition to serving as a senior policy aide for the Minneapolis City Council. That's all within the public or academic sphere, and it helps explain why she doesn't have the slightest clue how the real world works. That's why Representative Ulam stepped in, trying to explain how the job market actually operates. Take a look.
Well, Mr. Hudson, I think Representative O'Neill knows exactly what she says. And I think we've had a little conversation back here when the question was asked. I know Representative Ulam, do you want to speak to that point?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Omar, if you happen to be a salesman in this world, and you can be selling cars, you could be selling siding, you could be selling just about anything, and you are paid on commission. So if you don't sell anything, you don't make anything. So you can have good years, you can have bad years. Probably really one of the best examples is a real estate agent. So it's the idea that people can make less money year to year, not to mention all the bonus situations that are out there in industry. It happens. It happens a lot. It doesn't necessarily happen, here in the public sector, but it's pervasive and very, very common in the private sector.
And it's not just commission-based jobs. Even in regular jobs, when someone underperforms, they are warned. And if nothing improves, then they're shown the door. It may sound pretty harsh, but that's how the real world operates. The fact that Ilhan needed that explained says a lot. What makes it more absurd is that despite showing this level of disconnect, she went on to become a United States representative. It goes to show how voters genuinely don't know who they vote for. They just fall for catchy slogans or surface-level messaging. But even after being spoon-fed all this information, Omar still chose to act clueless, which led the chair to step in and shut her down completely.
And I'd like to add that in the private sector as well, people, if they are not performing at their job, get demoted, and with that demotion comes a pay cut. And that's not even related to being in a commission position, that's just in a regular position as well. Representative Omar.
I think a commissioned position is very different than what we are discussing today.
Representative Omar, I mentioned the fact that it's not just limited to commission. It's also for anybody that is demoted. So you can be in a regular job, not part of a commission situation, but if you're failing to perform, you'll get demoted, and then you get a pay cut with it. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. So I know Representative O'Neill has that experience having owned a business, and so I think she was speaking to that.
Now, I can assure you that even after 3 different people broke down this concept as much as they could, she still had zero idea what they were talking about. It's a matter of experience, if you ask me. Now, when someone spends most of their careers in roles where performance is not tied to real consequences, it can create a distorted view of life. They start to feel like having a job is guaranteed, no matter how productive they are. Now, to be fair, I can't speak of how Ilhan performed in her previous roles because I haven't contacted her former employees. But based on her track record in Congress, it is not unreasonable to question whether she carried a similar attitude earlier in her career.